All right, what's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be talking some Formula One, which is a topic I'm very passionate about. Um, I've been interested in Formula One since the beginning of the 2021 season. I'd had a little bit of experience with it before, and only recently got into watching every race and stuff. So hoping to have some new perspectives. Today we're going to be going through each one of the drivers briefly, and then each one of the teams briefly. And I'm just going to give my quick opinions after the first race of the season and what I'm going to be expecting for the season coming. Hopefully, I'll be able to do this after every race if people are interested, and we'll see some stuff about that. Okay, so starting off right at the bottom, Nikita Mazepin, his race lasted all of 20 seconds. Obviously disappointing for him. We're gonna hope that he's got a better season. If he stays in the sport, we'll see. You don't want to see anybody on the grid not competitive, and Nikita Mazepin in that Haas car is probably going to be the most likely character to be not competitive this year. But we'll see. We'll hope and hope to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he'll calm down and do hopefully surprise some of us this season. I mean, we're looking for good racing. And moving on, we got Fernando Alonso. Um, again, not again. He is unlucky. He was unlucky this race. You know, getting issue with it. There was an issue with the cooling on his rear brakes. That kind of stuff happens. Got unlucky for the first race. He was running in good positions. Seems to be doing well. I'm sure there's got a long way. That Alpine, we'll see. We'll hope it's able to surprise us for this season. But there's still a long way to go. Nicholas Latifi, suspected turbo leak, so an engine issue. Not often that those Mercedes engines show a faltering in reliability. But, it could have been any of 100 reasons, which is, all right. Managed to make it 51 laps, though, right? He got almost all the way to the end before having an issue, which, unfortunate for him. We'll see if he can. We'll see if he can try and pick up his pace this year, because it's going to be a real crunch year for him, as he might be out of a seat next year if Williams can find some money, and if they don't need that pay driver anymore, he could be very easily out of a seat for 2022. Pierre Gasly, another unlucky driver. All three of these DNFs that had technical issues were very unlucky for the first drivers of the season. Gasly just having that little nudge onto Ricciardo at the beginning of the race, lost his front wing, damaged his floor. Not a fun time for him. And he was running well, qualified P5. That P5 qualification shows me real hope. The P5 qualification and the P9 finish for Yuki Tsunoda gives me real hope for that AlphaTauri car, because especially with the big rake advantage that they had for the new aero regulations, that AlphaTauri is going to be a hell of a car this year. Mick Schumacher, the last of the finishers. That Haas looks abominable. Just no balance whatsoever. Both drivers just giving it a little bit of throttle and dumping it on the exit turns. Mick did it on turn 4. Mazepin did it on to end of turn 2, out of turn 2 into turn 3. So it's we'll have to see if those Haas mechanics can really pull something out of nowhere when it comes to that car, and just give it some balance and let the drivers try and drive the wheels off it. almost like going between the Red Bull and the AlphaTauri in the sense that the Red Bull is really tricky to drive, whereas the AlphaTauri seems to be a little bit easier. I don't know. This was the past year's issues that they've had, and with the whole second driver crisis in Red Bull. So we'll hope that the Haas mechanics can tune up the setups on their cars and really get that car to a place where it can be competitive, and they can really outperform the car. So we'll see. Um, Moving on, Sebastian Vettel, a like, I wouldn't say unfortunate, because it was just a lack of confidence entirely. He wasn't comfortable in the car, and you could see it in his every move. He hasn't been comfortable in a car since Germany 2018, really. So we'll have to see if he can find some real confidence in this Aston Martin car. If the way that they slot in means that the Aston Martin is solidly in that fifth or sixth spot, then fifth, sixth, I think. Yeah. What? One, two, three, four, five. Yeah, and sixth. If they can slot in really into sixth, then I think it's going to be a good season for Stroll and Vettel, just to sort of tide them over. And they'll be fighting for some points finishes. They'll be looking at a strong car. But there won't be much pressure, because you're probably not going to beat the AlphaTauri, Ferrari, and McLaren. We'll have to see how the points finishes sort out as the season goes along. But I feel like this could be a good season for Vettel not to be pressured into performing in a top three team. And so yeah, we'll have to see. Moving on is George Russell, who had a strong race. I think Vettel technically finished ahead of Russell, but the 10-second time penalty of Vettel's incident would have caused him to drop behind. I'm not sure, though. Don't quote me on that. Either way, George Russell had a very strong race. Finishing 14th in that car is a real confidence boost for the Williams garage. Knowing that their car is finally just sort of that little bit competitive. Russell is again going to have a sort of tide yourself over season, wait for 2022 and really sort of get excited for the new aero regulations in 2022. The aero regulations overhaul. They're not even just new ones. It's an overhaul. Esteban Ocon is another driver that I find interesting for this year, because he's had his seasons to get himself established as a driver, and he's shown that he can do it. He had his podium. I can't remember if it was 2019 or 2020. I think it was 2020. He ended up getting his podium. Let me go look that up. Yeah, okay. So I just looked it up, and he finished second in the Sakir Grand Prix. A really good podium for him. So he's shown that he's got some pace, and he can win it from if he's got a good position, like a strong contender. And I think it's going to be a good year for him, because it's going to be a good year for him because Fernando Alonso is going to be adjusting, and I think for the first few races they're really going to be battling it out. It's going to be like a real sort of back and forth performance from them, and that's going to give Ocon a little bit of confidence, and hopefully he'll be able to run with that confidence through the through the season. Okay, so moving on, you've got the Alfa Romeos, the pair of them. Antonio Giovinazzi in 12th and Kimi Räikkönen in 11th. Giovinazzi in 12th drove a strong race. That car is looking good. We'll see. We'll really have to see. Yeah. Because sort of Giovinazzi, if he doesn't outperform Kimi Räikkönen this year, and it will probably be Kimi's last year, Giovinazzi might be out of his seat next year. Being part of the Ferrari Driver Academy, he was sort of the next hope, and sort of got unlucky with timing with a really strong Charles Leclerc who sort of bulleted through the system, and now a young Sainz being in that top spot. So, he might be fighting with Schumacher for the next Ferrari seat. God knows when that opens up too, right? So we'll have to see. Kimi Räikkönen, the Iceman, 88 seconds off Lewis Hamilton, who've won the race. That's a strong showing from the Alfa Romeos to be just over and under a lap down. Unluckily out of the points, but that's the way things go. Lance Stroll, P10, a strong showing. Lance Stroll, this is going to be the season that sort of cements Lance Stroll in our mind, is whether he can really sort of stand as a viable F1 driver. Because we've seen that he can be great. Pole position at whatever the rainy race was, Turkey. Sticking a pole position last year, and some real solid results, propelling that team to the Racing Point team to fourth. In the constructors, was a strong showing. And if he can perform this season, it'll be really exciting for the pair of Vettel and Stroll. We'll see as the years go forward. Moving on to P9, Yuki Tsunoda. A really exciting weekend for Yuki Tsunoda. That AlphaTauri is looking mean. Hoping for a much better position than was it 7th that they finished last year, just behind Ferrari, 50 or so points behind Ferrari in 6th. That car is looking like Gasly and Tsunoda will have a blast driving it. So we're going to have to see what happens. I know I'm sort of avoiding predictions for now. Maybe I'll get to that later as I talk. But with the great Q1 lap, his Q1 lap would have gotten him into Q3 had he set the same time in Q2, showing that Tsunoda's got some real pace if he wants if he can get what he wants out of the car. He's got real pace. Moving on to 8th. Now we're getting into the top 4 teams. From P1 to P8 are all of the top all the drivers in the top 4 teams that I'm expecting for this year. Being in no particular order: Mercedes, Red Bull, McLaren, and Ferrari. So, Carlos Sainz, a really strong showing. He came out after the race saying, he was trying to stay a little bit cautious to finish the race. And I think that's great to see, the pace seems to be back. The drivers are great. And I feel like Ferrari's really going to be there to pick up the scraps this year, right? Like anyone who, if there's a race that Mercedes makes some mistakes, Red Bull makes some mistakes, Ferrari's going to be right there alongside McLaren to really pick it up, like Racing Point was last year, like McLaren was last year, as they both had some really strong showings. Um, P7, Daniel Ricciardo, had a strong race, was struggling to overtake, and finally got past Sainz, I think, in the last 2 or 3 laps or something like that. So strong showing from Ricciardo. Really exciting season looking forward. Charles Leclerc, P6. Personally, my favorite driver, so I will be biased when it comes to things like this. I'll try not to be. A strong race from Charles Leclerc. Could have been a little bit better. I mean, just seemed to be a little bit not quite 100% with the car. Again, it's everyone's first race, and we're gonna have to see how the season goes along. But it was a strong showing from Leclerc, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what Ferrari has in store this year. Yeah. P5, Sergio Perez. Sergio Perez, really strong race. Probably one of the strongest races, barring the top two. You could make the argument for all of these people here that they had the best race. All the whole. We'll talk about who I think had the best race after, but Perez, really strong race, starting from the pit lane, making his way to P5. Did really well to really cement himself, and we're hoping for a real strong showing from that second driver at Red Bull. Really stick it to Mercedes, and do what they can for this season. P4, Lando Norris, the Twitch streamer himself, a real riot when it comes to Formula One. Strong race. Really consistent the whole way through, so never in doubt whether he was gonna fall off. Just kind of in no man's land. Was 25 seconds off Bottas for the majority of the race, and had a big gap behind him for the majority of the race too. Right, once he dispatched Leclerc, I don't think there was ever a doubt whether he was going to be in that runner-up spot. Again, that McLaren is looking really solid. The high speed, the good top speed and good high speed aero. So for some real high paced circuits, it's going to be a good year for them. Bottas, unfortunate. It's probably the best descriptor of his race. Had the issue with the pit stop, and then did an extra pit stop to go for the fastest lap. So if you think of the 8 seconds he lost for his pit stop, and the 20 that he lost for his extra pit stop, he's only 10 seconds off Verstappen there. So unfortunate race, and I think he's really worked hard, and we're gonna hope that he can stick it to the top two this year, and we're gonna be everyone's gonna be battling for podiums this year. Max Verstappen, the Wonder Boy, Max, Super Max. Unfortunate, unlucky. The controversial overtake. He was outside of the track. Yes, they did say mid-race. Sorry, they didn't say that mid-race. It is in the technical regulations that you are not allowed to gain a lasting advantage by leaving the track. But like a lasting advantage, the argument between a lasting advantage with an overtake and with 30 laps in the race, which is like roughly what the amount of times that Hamilton exceeded those track limits, just not during an overtake. It's really hard to tell. Um, the FIA needs to be clearer on that. That's something that they gotta really figure out. Um, and Lewis, so that P1 spot, you can't go into this race. You can't come out of this race saying that Lewis Hamilton didn't work and earn that win. He earned the win at Bahrain. You know, there were some races last season that Mercedes car was just so dominant that it's hard to say that Sir Lewis Hamilton, earned the win. But today you can say that he earned the win, and that it being 7/10 of a second for the win is a really exciting thing for Formula One, and this season is going to be a real fun time because of it. So that concludes my going over of the drivers, and so we can move on um, to who I think had the best race. So the arguments for the best race today: Perez, Sonoda, um, Hamilton, and Verstappen, I think, are the four that I would have to put up there. Sonoda driving his absolute max when it comes to that AlphaTauri. A real great race. Really exciting for the year to come. But I don't think that I would call him having the best race. Perez, that pit lane to P5, that's a really strong showing, and to only end 52 seconds off the lead after starting in the pit lane is a strong showing again. But the top spot I think has to go to Verstappen for me. It was just the idea of it being such an exciting season really just trumps it all for me. And I know that's not fair to just the one race, but it's going to be a really fun season, and Verstappen is going to be leading the charge of that fun season, with the last 7 years of Mercedes dominance, 7 world constructors championships, 7 years of constructors championships that all go to Mercedes. The one break in the middle, 2016, when Nico Rosberg took the lone championship from Hamilton, who's won it all of the other years. I think I got to give that to Max Verstappen for being the lead of that charge for the fun season that is yet to come. So now, moving on to the teams. We're going to briefly go over the teams, and then I think that'll be it for the video. We'll be looking at 40 minutes, roughly. We'll see. Starting at Haas, at the bottom. A tough race, really. And it's going to be a tough season because, they've focused entirely on next season's development, which is probably the right option for them, too. Really to just leave that focus on next year and really try just coming out of the gates in form that they had back in 2018 kind of thing. If they had that form, you got a team of you got 2 young talents. I mean, Mazepin has yet to sort of prove himself at the highest level, at high levels even. Schumacher, anyone who comes off as the F2 champion is going to do well, right? So really strong showing coming. So Haas, if you're a Haas fan for this year, you're just going to have to, you got to be patient. Maybe pick up another team in the meantime. If you like cheering for the underdogs, it's a good year to be a fan of Williams. Speaking of Williams, moving on to Williams. The car looks better. It's had some strong showings. Russell, always driving the wheels off the car. we're hoping for a good season this year from Williams. And this is where it gets interesting. Because Williams and Haas, you're pretty sure are going to be the bottom two, unless one of them can magically score some, miraculous points. Um, they'll be in ninth and 10th. Um, if for some reason that Alfa Romeo can't score points this year, and the Williams can, that might switch around the order. Williams could end up in eighth with a couple points, and Alfa Romeo in ninth, but I don't see that happening. The two solid, like 11th and 12th from Alfa Romeo in the first race versus a DNF in 14th. So those bottom three spots going to, in my predictions, going to Haas, Williams, and Alfa Romeo. And then is where it gets interesting. I think that there's going to be a big battle between Aston Martin and Alpine for this year. Alpine for this year. And I think those are going to occupy the 6 and 7 spots on the grid. One of them might beat that AlphaTauri if they don't hold that pace from this year. If it was a fluke race in Bahrain where everything was just sort of going right for them, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think that it's going to be a strong year, and everyone's going to have points for the taking. So that 6 and 7 to me goes to Aston Martin and Alpine. In that order. And then the 5th position being solidly AlphaTauri for me, as just sort of the middle of the midfield, not punished by the aero regulations, really actually helped by the aero regulations. It'll be a strong season for them to go from 7th to 5th this year. Some really strong improvements with very limited room for improvement, right? Because of the whole token system. The 3rd and 4th spots being the interesting ones for me, because being a Ferrari fan, that I'm really hoping I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is and say Ferrari 3rd and McLaren 4th, which would be a really strong showing from Ferrari and a real big improvement from being 6th last year. That they'll really have turned it around, and the new technical department that they shuffled around will have worked well. McLaren just being another solid year. Because Ricardo and Norris, you know them as strong drivers, and but I don't see them being just that little bit more competitive that they need to be. The drivers, they're strong, but when it comes down to the wire, are they gonna win those races? We'll have to see. And yeah, they do show a slightly better pace than Ferrari, but we'll have to see. And so my prediction for the top spot this year is actually going to be Mercedes. I think they're gonna take the cake for one more year before the aero overhaul, but I think it's going to be the best fight since probably 2018. Where Vettel really had that number one spot for a long time before the latter half of the season, where Mercedes sort of took off. I think that Mercedes is gonna take the cake this year. They've shown years and years of dominance, and I don't think that that experience is going anywhere. And Red Bull has been sort of clawing and fighting since Vettel's left, and since Vettel left in 2014, and now that they've got the power to do it too, right? Like that Honda engine looks really, really strong. sort of on the level, almost on par with that Mercedes engine. Leaving Renault to be actually the slowest engine on track this year, which is a strong showing from all the manufacturers, right? Like, they've got there's good power in the grid this year. So I think that's it for my predictions. I was supposed to really be going over the teams, but it turns into predictions always because everyone likes to give their 2 cents about Formula One. I'm looking forward. I'm actually filming this on Thursday. I'm sorry, Wednesday. It's Wednesday today. And on Friday, we start in Imola. Really looking forward to that. Going to be following it. It's going to be a fun year. They extended the DRS zone in Imola, so hopefully it'll be a more exciting race. Good long DRS zone to let people overtake whenever they need. Yeah, so I'll catch you guys. Hopefully, I won't wait 3 weeks before recording the next video after Imola, and I'll get out a video quicker to you guys, and I'll keep up to pace on every race. But we'll see. So thank you all for watching, and hope to see you guys next time.